privilege to introduce Vance Patterson to you tonight. As a 32-year public servant, I've worked for about 50 politicians. When I introduce Vance, I don't have to remember what I said the last time, because what he is today, he was yesterday, and he'll be tomorrow. I never have to worry about him changing his position on issues, because he's always the same. He's a Christian businessman. That's my second reason that I'm on board with him. And I happen to believe that right now, more than any time in our history of our country, that we need good businessmen in Washington to make decisions. I'm proud to be on board with him, and he's a father of four, married Joe for 37 years. And I also think that the first characteristic of a good congressman is to be a good father. Well, Vance has four incredible children that are making an impact on this country in a very positive way. He's a Tea Party Republican. He's spoken 4 times at Tea Party conventions since '08, and will be the keynote speaker in April of this year in Burke County's Tea Party convention. He has started 16 companies, 2 of which made the list for the 500 fastest growing companies in the country. He currently owns and operates 4, the main one being Patterson Fans, also Frenzy T-shirts, and Iron Brew Coffee, and please help yourself to the coffee on the table. That's Vance's. He brought you a sample tonight so you'd have his coffee. You don't want to hear from me, so I'm going to sit down, because it's now time to bring what I believe the next congressman for this district will be, when it's all said and done, Vance Patterson.
Thank you, Ron. My wife is going to hear that. Nice. This campaign started, actually the primary campaign started back in August. And since then, there have been 10 candidates who have stepped up and said they're going to run for the Congress here in the 11th District. One of the questions I get is, what's the biggest difference between my position, who I am, and the other front runners? First of all, I am not a politician. There are others who have held office before. I'm a businessman. Now, there are others who are businessmen and in the sales field. I am not a salesman. I'm a hands-on, nuts and bolts guy who likes to get things done. I'm a serial entrepreneur who sees a problem, steps up, confronts it, and sees an opportunity, turns it around, and then leads in the right direction. Another thing you'll hear is about how the biggest issue we have here in the district is jobs. And my jobs plan, I put together back in September of last year. And I've been working that jobs plan for 5 months now. I've been to Raleigh, the Department of Commerce there. I've been to Washington. I've been to all 17 counties, talking with the county managers to find out what kind of jobs people want in their counties. Because not everybody wants smokestack industries. Jobs is the #1 issue here in the 11th District. Our economy tanked 3 years ago, and it's been flat ever since. Do you know that 9 of the last 11 recessions lasted only a year, and this one's been going on 3 years now? Some will say we're in a slow, jobless recovery. Well, what good is that if you don't have a job or you're underemployed? Now, you've heard a lot of this before. So what actually causes jobs? What creates jobs? Some will say it's you need to cut government spending, cut the size of government, reduce regulations, just cut back on government. I'm a manufacturer, and I'll tell you right now, if you cut my taxes to 0 and take all regulations away, I'm not going to hire anybody. Why? Because I don't have anything for them to do. Everything I need to have done is being done. So now all these steps are very important in laying a firm foundation on which to grow an economy. But these steps alone do not cause jobs. So what causes jobs? It's activity. Activity causes jobs. Now, I don't mean just giving people money and letting them drive up and down the road and spend it. That's what our stimulus bill did 3 years ago. $787 billion gone. And we still have a recessed economy. No, the activity I'm talking about is business activity, the kind that's been going on in my campaign. As I said, I have been to all the county managers, been to the departments of commerce. This is the kind of activity that generates jobs, to bring them in. Now, paramount in my bill, or my jobs plan, is manufacturing. And why manufacturing? Because every time there's been a surge in manufacturing, there's been a boom in the economy. Do you know that for every job created in manufacturing, as many as 4 others are created in the surrounding area? Those would be jobs in healthcare, in agriculture, construction, entertainment, restaurants, things like that. Manufacturing is the starting point. Now here's some good news. Manufacturing is coming back. I know, I'm a manufacturer and I've been seeing it for the last year or so. But it's not coming back in the same form that it left. It's not the 500 to 1,000 employee companies. It's more like 25 to 100 employee companies. These are niche marketers. These are ones like my company that pay better wages, have better benefits. The management and owners care more about the employees, and the employees care more about the company. They are jobs that cannot be exported. Now here's the bad news. Nobody knows we're here. Heck, half the state doesn't know we're here because we're west of I-77. We need to not only prepare our communities and our district with communications and transportation and education and recreation, but we also need to put together a serious business plan to package our western North Carolina, to show the quality of life we have and all the advantages we have here, and then take that package to the country and to the rest of the world. I've negotiated and done business all across the country and around the world, and I'll tell you, we have got a quality of life here unlike any in the rest of the world. When I travel, people will say, "Where do you live?" And I'll say, "North Carolina." They'll say, "What part?" And I'll say, "Western part, near Asheville." It's, "Oh gosh, I hear that is so beautiful." And they're right. We have a quality of life that we need to take to the world, to pull those companies in, pull those jobs in, jobs that can't be exported. Now, I've only got a little bit of time up here, so I want to cover some of the other really important issues, and I'll go through them very quickly. I support term limits. That term limits is one of the reasons, without that, is one of the reasons we have such a debt problem in Washington. I support judicial reform, that our judges need to get back to judging and not ruling on bad precedent. Precedent that was set up back under the Roosevelt era when he packed the courts. Judges need to start judging again. I believe in tax reform, to simplify our tax code, to get all forms of social engineering out of it. Now, by social engineering, I mean, if I want you to do something, I'm going to give you a tax break. If I don't want you to do it, I'm going to tax you. That is social engineering. And that's why we've got 70-some thousand pages of tax code. Taxes should be used for 2 things: to pay our bills, defend our country. Other than that, it should be a non-issue, off the table. I stand strong on the Second Amendment. I've been a gun owner since I was 6 years old. I believe Obamacare is a violation of the 5th, 9th, and 10th Amendments and should be repealed on that basis. I am against amnesty. I believe our parents taught us that there are consequences to our bad actions, and we should not sacrifice that culture for people who have broken our laws. I am against all forms of abortion. I believe any idea conceived by God should be cared for in this lifetime. And as Ralph stands up in Raleigh, I will stand in Washington against political correctness. And the first stand I'll take is to affirm God in government. Not religion in government, but God in government. There was a famous poet back in the 1920s and 30s, a guy named G.K. Chesterton. G.K. Chesterton wrote, "Once abolish the God, and the government becomes the God." once abolish the God and the government becomes the God. Is this not what's happening in Washington now? With a government trying to establish a culture where we come to government for all our needs? This needs to stop and be turned around. Every day, I worry that we're losing the America our parents left us. I mean, when we were growing up, could we have ever imagined that America would be borrowing money from a communist country? I mean, what in the world? Or that our economy would be dependent on the oil coming out of the Middle East. We need to drill our oil, mine our coal, tap our natural gas, and build safe nuclear power plants. And once again, show the world that we are America, self-reliant and able to determine our own future. Finally, one of the questions I get, and this is a tough one, is about what I believe is the biggest threat to America. And I thought about that. And I thought about the military threats. And I thought about Obamacare. And I thought about socialism. And a lot of these, Agenda 21, a lot of these things. But to me, the biggest threat we have to the survival of America is our national debt. Right now, it is $16 trillion. In 10 years,